Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to V-GovCon Live with Varetta Huggins. I hope everybody's having a fantabulous day today. We've got lots to go through, so I'm gonna get straight to it. And first, though, before we get there, just got some news I just need to share with everyone. Everyone may not be aware of this, so I just want to make sure I'm covering this for you. So during these sessions, I'm going to make sure anything new in government contracting, I want to let you know so that you're aware of the new changes or anything new that's coming out. So one of the new things is that I know a lot of you already have your DUNS number. And if you worked with us before and I said, hey, you got to get your DUNS number. If you're going to be a government contractor, that's a unique identifier that you need to be able to go after and get your cage code to be able to be qualified as a government contractor. Well, next month, which is, wow, it's next week. What they're doing is SAM.gov, they're changing over from DUNS number being your unique identifier for your business to what's called a SAM unique entity ID. And wanted to let everyone know that. So if you already have your DUNS number, more than likely in SAM.gov, they already issued you what's called a SAMI, or it might just be called a SAM unique entity ID. So you'll start seeing that, and I think it's a 11-digit code that's what they're using now to identify your company instead of the 9-digit number for the DUNS. So I'm letting you know, March 29th is the last day to obtain your DUNS number. So if you don't have that yet, March 29th is the last day. If you still don't have it after March 29th, just wait until the system upgrades, and then what they're gonna do is issue you what's called a SAM unique entity ID. And I used over here, SAM is equal to SAM. In some databases, they're calling it SAMI. Another database is called the SAM unique entity ID. And in some other databases, they're just calling it SAM. So one of those, it's gonna be, and I think it's an 11 to 12-digit, and it has characters in there, has numbers in there. So that's what is gonna be happening in April. So on April 4th is when the system is actually going back online. They're gonna take it down on April 1st so they can get everything upgraded in the system. And then by April 4th, if nothing happens, that's when they're going live with it. So just wanted everybody to be aware, if you already have a cage code in SAM.gov, then they already issued you a SAM ID. If you started the process, meaning you went into SAM.gov and you registered to get a cage code, but you're still in the waiting process, the same day you registered, they issued you a SAM ID. So just letting everyone know. So this is something new and just wanted you to know. So just like your DUNS number in your cage, find it in SAM.gov, write it down, keep it safe. A lot of times we're gonna have to be using that. So just like your DUNS, you're gonna be using it a lot of times when you're going after government contracting. They might need it for different databases that you're going in. So just make sure you have it in a safe place, in an email, on your phone. That way, wherever you are, you still have access to it, just in case you get locked out of SAM.gov, okay? All right, so just wanted everyone to know that that's coming, and it's gonna happen before the next time that we meet for a V-GovCon Live, so just be aware of that. Tell your colleagues, tell your other business partners who've got other companies that they do have a DUNS number, but that's going away. All right. All right, well, let's talk a little more. So tonight we're talking about the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law and the opportunities for small disadvantaged businesses. So early this month, I think it was the first week actually of March, I attended the American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials, and it's called ASHTO conference in Washington, DC. So it was a 4-day conference. I basically stayed in DC the whole week to be able to do that conference. And during that conference, I'm pictured here, I'm sitting with, and I think she was the Iowa representative for the Department of Transportation. And there was also another person for Massachusetts. And I also had the DC representative at my table. So all the officials, every state was represented in that room. And I will let you know that a lot of what was being talked about was the IIJA, also known as the Infrastructure Investment in Jobs Act, which is called the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. So wanted you to know that, and it was great to be at that event. In that picture that you see me at, that was the day that Pete Buttigieg, who's the Secretary for Department of Transportation, he came in and he did a keynote talk that day. And I asked a question and he answered my question. And the question I had was, I asked him, I said, okay, we've got all this money for IIJA. How are we ensuring that this money is going to be governed and there will be oversight in place to ensure that the disadvantaged businesses are getting the money that's designated for them? And one of the things, he loved the question, he answered it with, well, we've got the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program. And that's the program that they'll be using to ensure that your woman, your minority, your veterans, your socioeconomic status type businesses, all those disadvantaged businesses will be able to get their fair share by using that program. What that means for you, you have to be certified. You have to be registered as a small disadvantaged business. And at the DOT level, that means the DBE program. And the best part is today, after this call, I think you'll get an access to our website for the V-GovCon Live. And what we've done is we created a PDF with all the states in the United States. We've got where there's a link to their DBE website. Now, we got this from the DOT website. There were a couple of them that weren't accurate. They had error message. We fixed that in our version of it, and we're providing it to you. So if you already have access to our V-GovCon Live page, you can get it there. It's already on the site. And so just letting you know, the DBE program is what you need to be certified in. And if you missed the last session that we covered this, DBE is covering your small, woman, veteran, any disadvantaged business, any socioeconomic business. You're all under that there. And it's based on the owner. 51% of the owners have to be a disadvantaged individual, okay? So I wanted you all to know that, and for you to be able to start thinking about, hey, I don't have my DBE yet, I need to start that work, and we'll talk a little more about that. Okay, so we'll provide these slides to you because there's a lot of content and there might be some that you can't see well. So we'll give you a copy of this. That way you can zoom in to see some of the dollars that we're going to be talking about tonight. So the Building a Better America, this was President Biden who, his team came up with the guidebook to the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. Now, The reason I'm bringing this to you, because I know as business owners, you guys are busy, right? You're focused more on serving your clients. And that's how you're making your money today. So that's commendable. So I know you guys didn't have time to look through this document. It is huge. So one of the things that we're doing is we're reviewing it for you, and then we're bringing it to you in pieces so that you're able to understand what is in this for me, right? And so I'm gonna talk through some of this tonight, and hopefully we can get through most of it. But the idea is just to bring you the content, show you what is on here in terms of the dollars and some of the programs that they're going to be implementing so that you can start thinking, how can I go after some of this money? Okay. All right. So here, the first one I'm showing you, this is the total for roads, bridges, and major projects. And it's over $318 billion, right? I'm not going to go through the whole thing. Some of the yellows are what I highlighted, and some of those is what I'll be bringing to you so that we can talk a little more about them. So the first one in here is the Reconnecting Communities Pilot Program. And there's $1 billion that's going for this. During the conference that I went to, one of the stories that was brought from the guy from California was he was talking about how way back years ago, how a lot of these communities were disconnected, and it was disconnected because of highways. They brought in a lot of highway infrastructure, and you've got one city, it might be the same city on one side, and of that, whether it's a railway for the train or it's a major highway. And so you might have one city on one side or part of a city on one side, another part on the other side. Somehow the communities aren't talking to each other because there's a train between them, right? Or there might be a big major highway between them. And so what that did is there were not good economic development in one community versus the other. So there were one set of the community that was growing and the other one was not. So this is what happened, where a lot of these communities began to be disconnected. So now they're trying to reconnect these communities, and again, everything is based on infrastructure. So they're trying to come up with different ways of doing that. So they've put in $1 billion to be able to do that, and different states will be able to get the grants that's going to be coming through this. So if you're interested in that kind of work, some of the things that they talked about during the conference was whether it's developing a park, a kids area, play area, or fixing the roads in that area, bringing in trees, bringing in different plants, bringing in flowers, different ways of upgrading that community and restoring it. So if you can do any of those types of projects, that's what this is for. Now, when I go through these, I want you to pay attention to several things. First one is recipients. So each one of these, when I show you these slides, look at the recipients. In this case, it's saying owner of an eligible facility. And then look at the description of what it is so that you can gain information on what they're doing. Okay, so the next one I'm going to go through is the disadvantaged business enterprise. So this is the one where, again, Secretary Buttigieg told me, hey, these minority, these women, these veteran, any disadvantaged business, they need to go and get registered to be able to access this money. So I want you to look at the recipient. The states are getting this money. So I had the privilege of asking the Department of Transportation And I don't know the actual title, if he was the director or just the administrator in that state. But for Iowa, I asked him, hey, how are you getting this money and how are you using this money? And he said, the money comes directly from the federal government. They don't have to apply for it. It's a grant, but it comes directly to them. And so the states are the recipients of this money. What the state has to do when they get the money is making sure that small businesses, that nonprofits, are able to go and get registered for this program. And the other thing that they're doing is making sure once you are registered that you're gaining access to the Department of Transportation contracts. So they're gonna work with you to get you registered for the DBE program. And then they start looking at, hey, what are some Department of Transportation contracts that you can get based on the services or goods that you provide. Now, what I'm telling you today is in yellow. Go complete the UCA. It's called the Uniform Certification Application. And this is what the document looks like. That is the main document. And I will tell you, it's a US Department of Transportation form. So every state, the form looks the same. Go complete the form. Then, because you're saying you're disadvantaged, they want to know how. And that's where the personal net worth statement form, which is this form on the right, comes into play. You have to complete those two forms if you want to get your DBE certification, okay? So work on these two, set that as your next 30-day goal, and start getting these completed. This is important. And if you've heard me talk about this before, 2022 is your year. Do not let 2022 pass you and you haven't gotten some of these certifications completed and you haven't started having those conversations about going after some of these contracts and grants that this bipartisan infrastructure law is providing you, okay? All right, next one on here is the on-the-job training program. This was discussed in length at the conference, and there were several prime contractors who were talking about how they can help to implement this. And one of the things about the on-the-job training program is that first, there's 50 million that's being provided for it. And secondly, what it is doing, and notice the recipient is the states. What it's doing is it's helping minorities, women, disadvantaged individuals get the training they need to understand how to go into construction type industry and understand the language, understand different positions and what they need to do. So think of it this way: if you are a business owner and you've got a construction company or anything that's related to construction, right? It might not be directly related construction. It might be you're doing the janitorial work to clean up after a construction, right? They will provide the training for you to understand what it is they need in terms of those jobs. And it's federally funded. So these are contracts that different companies are getting to be able to help you. And then think of it, you're gaining the knowledge, then you pass whatever that program is, and now you are ready to go after those contracts. So this is where they're training you to gain the knowledge you need to be able to understand Department of Transportation, how the contracts work. And then now you're able to go after some of these construction contracts. So it's a great program. The other piece of it that they're showcasing here, they're talking about being able to focus on the science, technology, engineering, and math opportunities for high school students. So think of it this way: if you can partner with an academic institution who's getting that contract, who's getting that grant, and all you have to do is provide the training to those students. And think of anything you are doing. And in this case, of course, there will be a scope of work that they're going to provide you. But think of anything that you do. Can you create a training program around it? You should be saying yes, right? Anything you are doing, you can create a training program around it. There's money in training. And I've seen this a lot in this bill. So I want you to start thinking that way. How can I take what I'm doing today, create a training program around it, and get it ready for the next opportunity? Because a lot of money is being spent in training, okay? So here, what I'm saying here is you can find these opportunities and sign up for the training program, but you could also partner with these academic institutions who will be looking for trainers to train these students, okay? But again, this is at the state, so you're gonna have to go to your state portal and start looking for these opportunities. So I want you to remember what they told me. The money's coming to the state as a grant. The state is gonna take that grant, that money, and then they're gonna need to get the work done for whatever that scope that they have. And that work, they're gonna push it out through the state portal, the city portal, and these are your procurement portals, and they'll push it out as a contract. And that's where you come in, because now you can go after those, okay? So I want you to understand how the money is getting to the state and the city level and ultimately to you. All right, so I hope that made sense. We're going now to the next one on here. And this one is all about safety, and there's about $37 billion here. And it's more focused on safety, and think safety in infrastructure in transportation. So again, I didn't go through everything. I'm just gonna pull out some of this. I pulled this one out mainly because it was $970 million for highway safety, research and development. So think R&D. And the other reason I pulled it out, look at the recipients here. Can you see you in this? They're talking about the state, the county, and all that, but they're also talking about if you are a 501c3 nonprofit, if you are not a 501c3 nonprofit, it says small businesses can get a piece of this pie. Businesses other than small businesses, which means you're a mid or a large business, and individuals. So everybody can get a piece of this pie. It's R&D, okay? So this is where they're talking about R&D work. And one of the big goals they had at this conference is they're talking about how do we reduce the casualties on the road? They're trying to get to 0 casualties. And I can tell you, everybody's like, 0 on the road? I mean, there's an accident in the DC area every single day. So just imagine that's their goal. They want to get to 0. So how do you get to 0? It's by doing a lot of things that they're starting to talk about here. And so it's doing those human behavior factors. It's doing different evaluations, right, on the highway and traffic safety. It's coming up with new technology. It's coming up with new ways to detect drug impaired drivers, right? So they've got it all in here. And if you can look at this and be like, there's a little piece here that I think I can do. Start thinking about that, and then start going, using those keywords that you say, yes, I can do this piece. Go to your state or city or local government portal and start looking for these opportunities, because that's where it's going to be at. Okay, you could also go to grants.gov, because that's where a lot of this money is going to be funneled through, grants.gov. All right, so I want you to start thinking that way, where you're looking at these opportunities and you're trying to figure out, based on my niche, based on the service or product that I provide, how can I go after some of this money, okay? All right, the next one here is the Commercial Motor Vehicle Operators Grant. And notice the recipient, an entity that can train individuals in the safe operation of commercial motor vehicles. It doesn't have a name of a company, doesn't say state, an entity, okay? So again, this is all about training. So I want you to think that way. If this is not your cup of tea, then I'm sure there will be others that you can look at. But I want you to understand this, and there's $16.5 million for this. All right, so the next one I'm going to look at is the electric vehicle, buses and ferries. And they've got $18.6 billion for this. And one of the things I looked at for this one is the national, and they call it Eevee, electric vehicle infrastructure. And this one was $5 billion, but it's a grant. And look at who it's going to. It's going to all the states, including DC and Puerto Rico. But think of it this way, there are two different parts of this. One is the infrastructure. So they're saying, hey, we need to deploy the infrastructure. And then you'll see another one where they need to install the infrastructure. And then there's another one where they want to get the actual EV charging stations. And so think if you own a store, a shop, different things that, hey, you could be like, hey, you guys can install it in my parking lot, right? Or close to my shop. Start looking at how you're going to be able to do this. This is one where they've already started in California and they're trying to bring it to all the states. So start thinking that way, because they're trying to move, and it says national EV infrastructure. So they're bringing it to all states. And so start thinking innovatively, how can this program, how can I get money under my company helping with this? All right, so the next one is the charging and fueling infrastructure grant. And this is 1.25 billion. There are two of these that add up to 5 billion. And so I only added one here. And so for this one, again, recipient is the state, the local government. And so what they're doing here is they're making this available, but this is where they're installing the EV charging stations. So this is where they're installing it, mainly public facilities. So you'll start seeing it in schools and parks. And again, if you can help with this in any way, this is going national. So they're gonna have the money. At the end of the day, they just wanna know who can help them with the work, because that's what it's really come down to at the state and local level. They're gonna try and find these contractors to do the work. So this is one of the areas, if you're not too familiar with it, but you want to get into it, start doing your research, start getting that training that you need to be able to understand how to do that. And again, the government's paying for the training. Remember that. So they'll have lots of different training on your state website. Go to some of these trainings, sign up for them, try to understand what the language and the lingo is about. Try to understand what books you need to read, what courses you need to go to understand this, because that's how you're going to get those contracts. They're not giving it to folks who don't know the language. Okay, so start thinking that way. All right, next one on here. Now I'm going through these quickly, mainly because you'll be getting these slides. So this one is water, it has to do with anything with water infrastructure. And one of the things that they're doing is making sure there's no lead in the water. And so you'll see a lot of different water infrastructure type projects. I forgot to tell you guys this. When you look at this, look at the agency name, because not all of it will be Department of Transportation. With water, it comes on an Environmental Protection Agency. And you also see Department of Interior in here, Department of Health and Human Services. So look at the agency when you get this, because that also tells you which website you want to go to start reading up on some of this. The websites are already started to be updated with this information, so you can start getting the knowledge that you need from there. Okay, so this one's about 5 billion. And again, the federal agency is the EPA. And they're trying to improve the water infrastructure. So this is a grant. The recipient again is the states. And it's saying, and other eligible entities in small or undeserved disadvantaged communities. Want you to see that because it's there. And so one of the things that they're doing in these, a lot of the the disadvantaged communities or underserved communities, their water system is outdated. And so it definitely needs to be repaired. It needs to be basically made new. And so a lot of this money is going into that. So look at the, make sure you go find some of this in your state to see how they're doing that. What are the projects? What are the names of these projects? Because at the end of the day, you want to know what the keywords are so that when you go to your search at your state and city and local government counties level in those portals, you want to know what you're looking for, okay? So I'm hoping some of this will give you some of the language that you need to find these opportunities. All right, that's all I had in terms of going through. I wanted to spend time to answer some of your questions. I'm gonna go to, and feel free to tell me, go back to one of these slides. I'm gonna go to the first one and we'll start with some questions from there. So I'm gonna have Haley just start talking to me on how we're doing questions.
Yeah, if everyone just wants to either message what your question is, I can read those aloud. I do see here Alton has one. He asked if there are a list of the requirements.
Requirements for what?
Alton, if you want to turn your mic on, you can clarify.
Can I write it?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Does anyone else have any other questions? I know we had some that you all wrote in as well, so let me just open that.
Yes, excuse me. My name is Angela. The question I have is, can you send employees to the training?
Yes.
Thank you.
Check your state or local government website just to find out where the training is going to be at and what are some of the other requirements that they have. But
okay, and so once you, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So once you get your certification, let's say in the state of Maryland, and you want to do that same business in 2 other states, do you have to fill out the same paperwork for each state?
That's a great question. So it's called a uniform, and it's uniform for this reason. You get it once, meaning, and I'll use state of Maryland as an example. So when we got our DBE years ago in state of Maryland, we were told later on that, did you know that because it's a metropolitan area, you don't have to go on and redo the whole application in Virginia or DC. You can submit that same package with the certification to Virginia or to DC, and they would automatically just give it to you because you are already approved. So I tried it because I didn't believe it. Typical me. And I ended up doing it for DC. And yes, all I did was submit the documents, uploaded it to their website, their portal. And I also submitted the certification I got for MDOT, and I got it. I haven't started it for Virginia yet, but yes, especially if you're in a tri-state area, you should be able to just do it once. Once you're approved there, just complete just upload it to their site, their portal, and be able to obtain it for that other state.
Yes, just one more question. So what if you already went through the process and you just say veteran-owned business and woman-owned business? So do we still need to go to this website and complete this information so that you can get the certification through your state?
Yeah, did you get the DBE? Because DBE is what you're trying to get.
Oh, yes, I had received it years ago, but you're supposed to recertify after so many years, so I didn't recertify. So I
So
guess
you'll
I
have
need
to
to
go
start.
through it again. Yep.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Mark,
And that was a great question because that happened to me also. 1 year, I forgot, I missed the date. And I had to go through the paperwork of submitting all my paperwork again to get recertified. So do not miss those critical dates, folks. Telling you from experience, you don't want to have to go through that again. So whatever if they're telling you it expires on whatever date, make sure you're submitting whatever they're asking for on the date that they're asking you for it. Go ahead.
okay, Marquita had another question. She asked if you can apply for opportunities in a state other than the one that you live or operate out of.
Yep. At the state level, yes. I apply all across the US. Do look for the requirements for that state. So and I'll give you an example. We got an email from San Francisco airport and it came directly to my inbox. I'm like, oh yeah, I can do this work. And so we called into the pre-proposal conference and I got my teaming partners on that call. We're ready to go. And that's when we found out that the prime contractor have to have a business that's registered in that state. So you want to look for those little things. And those are things that you will have to read through the procurement opportunity to find out, can you do that in a different state? If you can, what are the requirements? Because every state, their procurement process is different. And you want to just find out. There are some states we've done business, we can do business in, and it's not a big deal. All they needed was capability statement for us to show that we can do that business. But then there are other states who are like California, you got to be registered there. So do look through the requirements because that's where you'll find the information as to, can I do business in that state for this procurement opportunity or not? Okay, I hope that answered your question.
May I
all
ask
right.
a question?
Mhm.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is Mary. Thanks, first of all, thanks for hosting this, Ms. Dutton, and thank you for presenting it. Is it Ms. Huggins?
Ms. Huggins.
Okay, so my question is, once you become DBE certified, does that automatically certify you for women-owned small business or the ED, WOSB? Do you have to do those separately? I remember you said something about getting certified and then having that certification, but does it automatically certify you for those other certifications?
Great question. Yes and no. So here's the yes. Disadvantage means you're disadvantaged because you're a woman. So immediately you get the WBE. You're disadvantaged because you're a small business. You get the SBE. You're disadvantaged because you're a minority business. You get the MBE. So they will find out when you're filling out that paperwork, they will ask you questions. And that's what they're trying to figure out. Which disadvantage are you? And that's how you're getting that. So I'll give you an example for us. When we got our DBE, we were disadvantaged for being a woman, for being a minority, and for being a small business. They didn't give us WBE, but guess what they said on our application? That we're a woman-owned business, which means we got the WBE also. So
Wow.
Yes for that. No for other certifications. And here's what I'm trying to say. If you're asking, can I get the woman-owned small business, which is WOSB?
Right.
If you guys were here at the last session, that's at the federal level. So federal wants you to go through the SBA to get that certification.
Okay.
If you're trying to get the 8A program, that's at the federal level. So they want you to go through SBA to get that certification. So it's different. I was coaching a lady from Florida, And even though she had the DBE at the state level, her county offered a WBE program, and they're offering it because they want them to do that and be able to get contracts at that level. So guess what? She went after that too. So yes, from my last, from the last event where I said, any certifications that your state, local government have, they have them for a reason. They have specific contracts under those programs. So you can get the DBE, but note that that's at the state level, and you can use it at the federal level also. But if your county or city government is saying, hey, we've got an MBE program or a WBE program at our county level, and we need you to get that, and it's different to your state one, then go after that also.
Got it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Someone also asked if the process for getting the new SAM unique identifying number is similar to getting the DUNS number, or
Great
if the process
question.
is easier.
That's actually a great question. No, it's not. So when you go into sam.gov and you now want to go after that cage code, when you start the process to apply for your cage code, the system automatically gives you a SAM ID. So you will get that SAM ID way before you get your cage code. Why? Because once you click submit, or even before you click submit, once you start going through some of those forms, there's a part where it automatically, when you move over to another form, it already generated that SAM ID. So think of it as a unique ID for your company when you start registering for your cage code. The system generates it. So it's a system ID. Okay, I hope that helps.
Part two to that, do you help with obtaining that number?
The what number?
Does your company help with obtaining the SAM number?
We help with obtaining your cage code, which yes, we'll give you that SAM ID. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
So in an email that you're gonna get 30 minutes after this, I think we included the link for cage code. And I can tell you there are folks out there who are charging an arm and a length just to help with that. We don't do that. So feel free to click on that link. We do it once a month. And we only hold 5 companies because it's a lot of coordination between companies just to get them to that. We took a 2.5 day boot camp and we push it down into 3 hours. So we're able to help you, work with you to get your cage code, and by applying for it in 3 hours. But you'll get a link on that. All right, next question.
France asked if you have to renew your SAM and DUNS annually.
Yep. And for those of you who did not, here's where you go find it. So if you did not, if you realize, oh shoot, I missed that date. And I can tell you guys that happened to me this month. I was at the conference and apparently ours were up on the 1st, but we thought it was later than that. And I got an email saying, hey, your thing has expired. I'm like, there's no way it expired. We still have several days to go. And went to look for it and it's gone. It's not active anymore. So when you go to sam.gov, there's a little click button on the bottom that says, if it's not active, that's where you'll find it. Because you might put in your cage, your DUNS, your SAMI ID and realize you still can't find it. You have to click where it says not active or inactive. I can't remember the exact word. If you know that it expired, and that's where you'll find it under inactive. And then now you have to go through that system where you're just updating it. And an update might just means you didn't change anything. You still have to click the submit button for a trouble ticket to be generated for them to start working on it for you, okay? But yes, it's not a good feeling to have, especially when you got contracts lined up and you're like, oh shoot, my cage could expire, am I getting paid?
I didn't see any other questions in the chat, but if anyone wanted to ask any questions, you can turn your mic on and ask now.
Yes, how long did it take them to reinstate your cage code?
Great question. I think I went in, do a quick submit, and I didn't hear back from them the next day. So I emailed them and said, hey, where's this in the cycle? I need this now. And
Right.
they were able to work on it immediately for us.
Okay. Thank you.
But yeah, it doesn't take long.
Shadid,
I have a quick question. Is there a cost for the DBE?
No, it's free. The email that you're gonna get from us has a link, actually a document that says DBE information, access DBE information. Once you get that, it's gonna be on the V-GovCon website. Go through there, find your state. There are links to all the websites. Click on that, and it would take you to your state's website for the information you need to be able to do your DBE. It's free. If you need our help in terms of you're not sure, they're asking for some of these documents, all that stuff, do a discovery call with us, and then if we realize it's going to be your help is needed for more than 15 minutes, then what we'll do is we do 1 hour sessions where you just pay for an hour and we'll help you with whatever those needs are.
Okay, and the second part is, can you do a DBE in more than one state?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Shadid, I saw you had a question, so if you just want to unmute.
Sure. Good evening. I want to say thank you for the training. Very helpful. A lot of information. Feel kind of overwhelmed. My question is, if let's just say like a company, it's like a video production company that does like video production and live streaming, just in general, and some of these STEM programs and and academic institutions kind of need that work, but it doesn't quite say it in layman's terms in the grants. What are like, some information that we need, like that we can kind of, assist them in terms of training, so where we can kind of help them out in terms of that grant.
Sure. So you want to look for those opportunities at the state and city level. Just know that today, training has moved to the point where if they're doing training without video or graphics, we're not going back to those PowerPoint by death type training, right? So yes, they do need your video production and the graphics as part of that training. It's just that you now have to find the opportunities. And in some cases, they don't know that you exist. They don't know that you can do some of that for them. So that's where having that capability statement already in place. And now you can email it to them and say, hey, this is what we do. Can we schedule a call where we can either give you a demo of some of the services that we provide, or we can come in and have a conversation about what your needs are. And then we can create, whether it's a pilot program or a demo around that need. So it's you now understanding what their needs are for training. They might not know that they need video as part of that. All they're telling you is, we've got this need. Now you being the innovator can take that and say, hey, we can do it this way. And that's what they're looking for. They're looking for vendors who can tell them, hey, we can help with that need that you have. This is how we can do it. But it's getting those capability statements completed and sending them out as marketing materials, because that's what they're looking for, to find out where are these companies that can help us. And are these companies disadvantaged companies because we can meet those disadvantaged goals? At the end of the day, they're all trying to make those goals, and those goals are helping them to get more money in that agency. So the more disadvantaged companies they hire to do their contracts, the more money they're getting in the next year in their budget. Think of it that way. But great question.
Ms.
Andre,
Huggins. Oh, I'm sorry.
no, you can go on.
Once you become DBE certified, will your state know that you're certified, or is it up to the individual?
Great question. You're going through your state to get that certification. So yes, they're gonna put you in their DBE database. And not
Okay.
only will your state know, but at the federal level, they'll know, and everybody else in your state can go and find you there. And there are
Okay.
opportunities that they might say, DBE, we need to meet a 5% goal, a 10% goal. And then you start getting random calls, random emails. Hey, I found you in the database. Can you bid on this contract with us?
Wow. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, Andre, if you wanted to go next.
Yes, I was kind of sure I saw that section you were talking about the fuel, and I was kind of confused whether that's an opportunity they're looking for, like actual fuel products or fuel hauling, because I'm a transportation brokerage and I'm also a supplier. So I was kind of confused as to what that exactly was.
You said field?
Yeah, the fuel section, it was about fuel.
Oh,
and
fuel.
things like that.
Hold on, let me see if I can find it. Do you remember the name?
Yeah, somebody had to do with like fueling the state or something like that.
It was in the Eevee section?
No, I'm not sure.
Okay.
I was just kind of curious. I was kind of confused. I'm like, are they actually looking for fuel to be shipped, or looking for someone to supply fuel? There was some billions of dollars. I'm like, that's a lot.
Do you remember the dollar amount?
Yeah, it was like, I want to say like $5 or something like that. I'm not sure.
How much?
It was in the billions, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, so this is the one I know had the fuel grants.
Yeah.
Let me see, under this one. Okay, alternative fuel, that one?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's the EVs. Yeah, so. The question, the alternative fuel. Haley, can you mute that person?
Okay, I guess we're good now.
Okay, so what's the question now in terms of alternative fuel?
Okay, I was just kind of curious exactly what this, to kind of see what they were looking for exactly. But now I see. Sorry.
You got it? Okay. All right. Any other questions?
A quick question, Varetta. So overall, this is Chandra from Essential. Overall, these grants and research program that DOT is providing, even though you are small business certified in one state, you can go and register with every other state possible, or we have to be very specific to this location. I just want to understand.
So it's the scenario I explained earlier, where if you're located in like a metropolitan area where you're doing business, your office might, and I'll give you an example. Our office is in Maryland.
Yep.
A lot of our clients are in DC. We've done work in Virginia. So we're covering all these 3 states. So you have to show somehow that you're doing business or you are located in that state. You've got to provide some kind of documentation on that.
Okay. So if I'm certified in Virginia, I want to do business in DC, I need to get registered my company in DC and get certified in DC, right? In order to get the business.
No, so it would be similar to what I explained earlier. The universal program says, if you're in a DMV location, right? So I'm using DC, Maryland, Virginia for all those on the phone, on this call. You just need your certification in one state, and you can go and apply for any of the other 2 states.
Oh, that's good.
Because of the metropolitan agreement that they have in place.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's good to know that it's very, very important point. Yeah.
Yep. So you can take that same package, upload it for Maryland, upload it for DC, and be able to get certified in those two areas. And I can tell you also, you get WMATA.
Yeah.
All right. So again, everyone, if you're in a metro area, that's an easy one for you. You can just do it once and be able to apply for the others. If you've got locations or you're doing business, so I'm giving you an example, you might be in Chicago, right? And you've got an office there. Well, let's say you have another office in Florida, you can still get the one down in Florida. Just go through their website, find out what that process is. Let them know that you already have it in Chicago and see if they'll just actually to upload those documents for the Florida one, okay? But what they're trying to do is not have you do it more than once. You do it once, you get approved, they're using that approval for the other states. All right, any other questions?
Erica, did you have a question?
Yes, one more question. So when do you think they will start spending some of this money to support these projects?
Great question. So next month, the reason we're constantly doing this is because in the month of March is when the budget got approved. So a lot of them are still working through the paperwork in March. So in April, what we're doing for the next V-GovCon Live is we're gonna go to grants.gov. We're gonna find some of these opportunities so I can show you what you're looking for. And then I'm gonna probably just use Maryland because we got access to the portal in Maryland to show you from the state, on grants.gov, how do you go to at the state level now to find these opportunities at your level where you can now go and bid on these. So that's gonna be our next discussion in April, where we're going through some of these grant opportunities on grants.gov and then start seeing what's already out there. It's gonna take some of them a little while just because it's paperwork. With government, there's lots of paperwork. And so some of them already have some on there on grants.gov. I saw some today. And so they're already trickling on to grants.gov, but just know that some of them are getting the money. It's not going to grants.gov. They're just getting the money directly from the federal government. Okay, but that was a great question. All right, we got 2 more minutes.
Yes, I have a question.
Hello, I have a question.
Hi.
Hello. Hi. My name is Donna Smith, and thank you so much for all this information. Lots of good information. I think I missed where do we go to do the certifications?
Great. Your state website, and again, we're gonna send you to our V-GovCon Live webpage. It's a constant contact page. When you get there, look for the link or the button that says access DBE information, and that will be a list of all the websites for all the different states. Go through that, find your state, click on that, and that's where you'll find the information.
Okay, thank you. And I also want to ask, will we get a copy of this recording?
Yes. So for guys finish the processing, we'll put it on the V-GovCon Live page to access it. Sometimes it takes a week, so just bear with us.
Okay, thank you very much.
Welcome, Erica.
Hi. Thank you for the training. I'm new to this, and I wanted to know if I haven't registered for my DUNS number, I know that would be the first step, but before taking the DBE certification, do you recommend getting certified as a woman or minority business as well?
Great question. So where you are today, because you don't have that DUNS out, so wait till April 4th. Okay. Then you don't need it, right? You just get your SAM ID when you try and go get that cage code. At the state level, so I'm talking to everybody now, at the state level, you don't need a cage code to go after the state DBE, MBE, WBE, SBE. You only need a cage code for when you're going after the federal disadvantaged program. So that will be your woman-owned small business, that WOSB or EDWOSB. For the veteran-owned small business, for Hub Zone, for 8A, you need a cage code at that level. Got it? All right. Was it
Hi,
Huggins?
can I? Yes, hi. I was curious as to, does this apply to small businesses, like maybe a small salon, or is it just for, like non-for-profit business to be able to get the DBE?
Great question. The DBE applies for-profit companies. I'll have to look at the requirement for nonprofit. I don't think they need it because all they need is the 501c3. But I'll have to look at that. But DBE is mainly for your for-profit businesses. I'll have to look at that, and what we'll do is put that answer on our website once I figured that the answer to that question, but great question. Andre, you had a question?
This is Ronald. This is Ronald Laporte. I have a question also.
Go ahead.
I just recently received my DUN. I got my DUN number like a couple of months ago, but I just received my cage number. That means that my application is finished with the SAM.gov, and I just want to know, okay, now where do I go and look for contract? I started already by grant.gov to look for grants, but I just want to know, where do I go for contracts?
Great question. SAM.gov is where you go. Know that grants.gov is mainly for nonprofit, and SAM.gov, where you're looking for government contracts, is where you go if you're a for-profit. Okay. A great question. All right. I think that's about it. We're over time. I don't want to keep everybody. So thank you all for calling in. I hope this was a wealth of information for you. Once you get those emails from us, start going through that, start working on your 30-day goal. If you don't have any of those DBEs, start working on those, and start working on your capability statement if you haven't done so. And then your next thing that I would say is start going through your portals at your state and city level. If you're like, Brett, I don't even know what you're talking about, go to your .gov in your state and you could type in the word small business office, or you could type in the word procurement opportunities. That's where you need to go to find the procurement opportunities. Some states have a portal that you go through, you got to get registered, and that's where you'll find their opportunities. Some of them, they're public, they're just on the website, so you can just find it there. So it all depends on your state, but they have different ways of getting to those contracts. But start going through there, finding those opportunities, finding who you need to talk to, because you don't want 2022 to end and you didn't get that grant you were looking for, you didn't get that contract that you were looking for. So want you all to be successful. And that's why we're providing this information to you. So again, thanks everyone for calling in, and I'll see you next month.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
See you next month.